What do the Little Rascals, Theodore Roosevelt, Helen Keller, Thomas Edison, and both world wars have in common? All of these used pit bulls in one way or another. Pit bulls have been prominent throughout history and continue to be prominent in today's society. First, we will talk about the origin of pit bulls. Then we will talk about important pit bulls throughout history. And lastly, we will talk about pit bulls in today's society. The origin of the pit bull breed is fascinating. According to the AKC, pit bulls aren't one specific breed, but rather a classification of several breeds, including Staffordshire Terriers, Pit Bull Terriers, American Bullies, American Staffordshire Terriers, and sometimes American Bulldogs and Bull Terriers. In the early stages of America, pit bulls were originally bred to farm, protect animals for companionship, and more importantly, to watch children. They were the original nanny dog. Honestly, there's no credible source to support that pit bulls were the original nanny dog, but there are tons of vintage pictures to show that pit bulls were trusted with babies and children. Pits were originally bred to be fighting machines. So you may ask, how can they be so kind to humans? The answer is simple. Pit bulls that bit handlers were put down. Therefore, they were bred and trained to be gentle with humans. These are traits they are still known for today. There is a number of important people throughout history that are avid pit bull owners. Some of these include Theodore Roosevelt, Helen Keller, Thomas Edison, Laura Ingalls Wilder, and Humphrey Bogart. In fact, Helen Keller's favorite service dog was Stubby, a pit bull terrier she wrote about in her autobiography, The Story of My Life. Now that we've covered the origin of pit bulls, we'll talk about some important pit bulls throughout history. There are many important pit bulls throughout history. There have been a number of pit bulls that were famous throughout the 20th century and even dubbed American heroes. In an article published by Bark Post, I learned one of the earliest pits in history was Bud, a pit bull that traveled across the country on a road trip in 1903. He was traveling with his owner, Horatio Nelson Jackson, on the first ever cross-country road trip. Jackson and his traveling companion found Bud about halfway through their trip, and he gained almost as much attention as his new owner. According to loveabull.org, during both World Wars, pit bulls were so loved that America decided to use them as their mascot of fearlessness and protection. Pit bulls were some of the first dogs in American wartime. Sergeant Stubby is one of the most well-known. Originally a stray with a stubbed tail, he was found near an Army training camp at Yale. He was taken in and trained to respond to bulge calls, march with troops, and even salute fellow soldiers. His owner smuggled him overseas to fight in World War I, and he served 18 months on the front lines in over 17 battles and 4 different campaigns. Now that we have covered some very important pit bulls throughout history, we will talk about how pit bulls are used in society today. Pit bulls are used for a wide array of jobs. Many pit bulls are being trained and used as police dogs. Pits were bred to be working dogs, and the drive is still within them today. Contrary to some negative stereotypes that surround this breed, these dogs make stable and trustworthy police dogs. Their drive to please, along with a never-give-up attitude, could not be better for police tasks. These tasks can include things from search and rescue to criminal pursuit, as well as protecting their officer. Police dogs have many tasks: sniffing out drugs, tracking down bad guys, and many others. One thing's for sure, no job is too big for any pit bull that's trained by a police agency. Pit bulls probably are not the first type of dog that comes to mind when people think of therapy dogs, but according to the Animal Foundation, there are many pit bull terrier type dogs successfully serving as therapy dogs all across the U.S. The most well-known examples of pit bulls becoming therapy dogs are among the dogs that were rescued in the 2007 case that found Michael Vick guilty. The Animal Foundation explains how 49 dogs were seized and 48 of those dogs were sent to rescue groups, now referred to as victory dogs. Most went on to find homes, many of those homes with families, children, and even other dogs. Several went on to become service dogs or therapy dogs. Johnny Justice serves as a therapy dog in San Francisco and was named ASPCA Dog of the Year in 2014. He does work with terminally ill children. And Sax and Hector both received therapy dog certification and spend their days in hospitals, nursing homes, and even schools. There are a few more famous pit bull service dogs than just ones rescued from the Michael Vick case. According to the Animal Foundation, after the Boston Marathon bombing, when Bolston Street reopened, therapy dogs were sent down to the bombing site. Pit Bull Terrier Blueberry was among them. Blueberry went to the bombing site for 3 weeks to provide comfort. And another example is the rescued shelter pet Jeffrey, another pit bull type dog, who visited with students at Sandy Hook Elementary School in the aftermath of the shooting to provide comfort to students. Pit bulls are still very prominent in today's society. So in conclusion, we first talked about the origin of pit bulls, then we talked about important pit bulls throughout history, and lastly, we talked about pit bulls in society today. Pit bulls have been prominent throughout history and continue to be prominent in today's society. Josh Billings once said, "A dog is the only thing on earth that loves you more than he loves himself." I believe this speaks volumes about the relationships people have been forging with dogs throughout history. No matter the breed, dogs are and will continue to be an important part of society forever.